And we are back for another episode. So, either way, this is where we finished up last time, talking about different aspects of Merton's strain theory and other factors that go into it. So, I did mention the 5 modes adaptation in terms of wanting to talk about it this time. And so, there are different ways that, according to Merton, there are 5 different ways that people will adapt or, in essence, adjust and act in society as a result of these goals and aspirations that are put forward by society as a whole, as well as, as we mentioned before, different means to reach those goals that he's talking about, right? So first of all, the main group, which is makes up the majority of the population, is this conformity group. They accept the goals, the prescribed means, meaning they abide by laws. They go about and actually, based on societal norms, they'll live within those norms. They do their best to try to, they still want to achieve those goals that are set by society, and they want to do it in the legitimate way, whether it be through working hard, working jobs, as well as trying in the classroom and trying to improve themselves in terms of education. And like I said, it's a legitimate, lawful means of trying to attain those goals. And it doesn't matter whether they ever attain them or not. It's the idea that they are trying to achieve those in a proper way, in the way that is prescribed. Okay, so we have, from there, we also have the innovation group or innovators, who they are the ones who, they see those same goals just like the conformity group would, and they agree with those goals. And they said, well, that's nice that I'm going to try to go by what society says. However, if it's necessary for me to kind of step out of line or out of bounds in terms of what's legal or not legal in order to obtain some of these things, I I can do that. It won't be any major, it won't be a violent crime. It won't be a life of crime, but it's, it may be something here and there to, as they view it, more of like a supplemental way, or if you just look at the word innovator, that's kind of what they're thinking. Like, you have to think outside the box a little bit about how to make money, and that's what they do. Except they do it in ways that are prohibited by the law, right? So you guys see there's examples there, especially the robbery. That's probably the one that you're going to would see the biggest examples of theft, whatever. And so, or if in terms of businesses, you might see, I say business, but more like white collar crimes, embezzlement, fraud, things like that. So anyway, that's pretty simple for innovation. Next thing is ritualism. And these are the people who, yes, they accept the original goals that society sets forth. And yes, they may at one point in time have tried to reach those goals, but they have gotten to the point to where they don't really believe that they'll ever succeed at reaching those goals, and don't really feel like putting forth any more effort to try to achieve those goals. So it's kind of like saying, I'm happy where I'm at, and I'm not really going to try to change in order to do any better. For example, in this class, if at the beginning of the semester, I said I would love for everyone to get an A, which is true. I would love for everybody to learn well. I would love for them to do, all of you to do well on tests, and actually get the material and understand it well, even though it's dry sometimes. But hypothetically, say a student in this class has a C plus. Okay, they don't think they'll ever get to an A, because they think, oh, we're far enough along, I can't improve my grade to get to an A. No, but I'm okay with a C, because I will get credit for I'll get credit for this class, and it will transfer if I go to another university. All those things, factored in, they're okay with where they're at. So they don't want to worry about trying to basically try any harder. They're not going to give up. and they're not going to stop doing some of the work, but they're not going to strive to better themselves or strive to improve their grade any. So that's kind of where we're at with ritualism. So, all right, and the last two that we'll talk about would be retreatism, and this is where the um, drug usage, drug abusers, or drug addicts, basically, kind of where they fall in. And it's not just from a criminal sense. Yes, they commit crimes in terms of possessing and using illegal substances, but it's just the general concept. And you may have someone who's instead of using other drugs, be it heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, or anything, meth, you name it. Instead of have something like that, you may have someone who just, I say just, but who drinks heavily, and that impacts their life. So instead of actually being a productive part of society, these people choose to, as the word would say, retreat. So instead of facing the fact that they can't reach those goals and on their current path, and they need to make some changes in their life, they choose to put themselves in a different state of mind to where they're really not as aware of where they're truly at. So it's retreating from reality, basically, is what they're trying to do through the use of alcohol or drugs. And unfortunately, that obviously puts them into other more susceptible to things like depression and other dangers in life anyway. But this is retreatism, to get away from what society deems is acceptable, or what we should be striving to do. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the last group is the rebellion group. So what they tend to do is basically they set up their own standards, their own goals, whatever aspirations. So an example of this, and it's not the only one out there, but an example would be gangs, for instance, whether it be Vice Lords, Bloods, Crips, Gangsters Disciples, P-Stones, all sorts of Latin Kings, MS-13, whatever. Okay, a lot of them will end up having their own codes, and yeah, they have different names based on what it is. For instance, Latin Kings have they call it a Bible. Okay, but what I'm getting at is they make their own. Yeah, sorry about that. Gotcha. There we go. They make their own rules or laws based on their little group and how they want to live. They want to reject society's ideas of what they should do, and obviously they tend to reject legal aspects of it. But either way, they set up their own ideas, their own codes of how they should be living and how to govern themselves. So that's what a rebellion would be. Those are the 5 modes of adaptation that Merton talks about. I'm trying to think. Oh, here's this video, because I'm going to kind of sum up Merton real quick here at the end of this video. But this video here is from the Shameless show. It's a little older, but it still shows the point of what we're talking about with the strain theory, and how you may blame other things, other aspects of society, such as government, or just how the system is set up, and in order to reach those goals and aspirations set forth by society, you would be willing to go outside of the outside of the law to get them done. And the example actually in this video is more of an innovator aspect of it. So anyway, like I said, this is kind of where I'm going to cut this one. It's a little shorter. I'm going to cut this video off here, and then we will continue on to explaining Agnew's different approach to much the same thing. So, all right, I will see you then.